the session, we're going to look at how we can try and maintain as much of a good posture as possible. The muscles tend to hold a lot of tension and often pain, and we want to make sure that we restore as much as we can our optimum posture. Please can you make sure that the space is cleared of any obstructions. Have a bottle of water for hydration during the session. Let's start by doing a posture check. You're going to start with your feet together, standing up as tall as you can. We're going to push the pubic bone an inch forward. As you do that, you should feel your glutes or your bottom cheeks switch on, the sensation of abdominals just softening inwards towards the spine. Then open out the toes into a V shape. This is your Pilates stance. And then open out your heels. And now you've got a parallel alignment with your legs. You want to feel that your glutes are active. You've got a gentle connection through your abdominals. And let's look at the alignment. You want to make sure your pelvis is sitting in line with your ankles, not in front of the ankles. Your knees are soft and your rib cage is sitting over your pelvis. It's not flaring forward. You want to also think about trying to open up your chest and your collarbones so that the shoulders sit nicely over the ribs if they can. Your head, and this is quite common with osteoporosis, this more severe it gets, it can actually end up in a position that we call kyphosis. So it's this kind of curved, rounded posture in the upper back. And what happens is the head tends to sit a little bit forward of the spine. So we want to try as much as we're able to elongate the back of that neck by drawing the head backwards. Open up the shoulders so you're activating your upper back. Imagine someone's touching your nose and you're trying to move away from the finger, lengthening the neck as much as you can. Take a deep breath in to the back and side of your rib cage, getting that nice space between the ribs. As you breathe out, I want you just to relax into that posture. Can you feel all the toes and the heels connected? Now we're going to go into some heel raises. So we're going to hover up onto our toes and release back down. If you felt a little unsteady and you need a bit of wall support or even a chair support, please feel free to grab that. Otherwise, we're going to do another 8 like that. We're going to float up onto our toes and release back down. Now, as you're coming up, we're weight bearing into those toes. Really good for improving and trying to maintain as much density through those feet as possible. And as you're going, I want you to think about how you're bearing that weight through the toes. Are you leaning more into one part of the foot, or can you get it even across those toes? Try get that ball of the foot connected. Don't just roll onto the outside. You want to get the arches of your feet active. And last one, you're going to float up. And can you hold that for 3 seconds? 1, 2 is the ball of the foot and big toe connected, and release back down. Give the legs a little bit of a shake out. We're going to stretch out the front of the thigh now. If you need the wall support again, please feel free to use it. You're going to grab onto your ankle, breathing into the stretch. If you can't actually reach your ankle, you can always wrap a little belt or even a dishcloth around your ankle and then hold the belt or the dishcloth instead. Depends how tight those legs are. And then shifting over to the other side. Stretching out the front of the thigh. The thighs can get really tight and even go into the hip with osteoporosis, as everything's in that kind of protection mode and becoming a little fatigued. And then release. Now, balance is really important. We need to have good balance to avoid falls and potential breaks. So what we're going to do is and I'd use a wall or a chair for support initially for this one. You're going to basically walk on an imaginary tightrope. So stepping one foot in front of the other foot, and I want you to have the front foot's heel touching the back foot's toes. Just hold that position. It's surprisingly challenging. Let's switch legs. So you're going to walk the other foot forward, heel against toes. Try keep that elongation through the spine. Keep the shoulders, ribs above the pelvis. And walking again. And again. Feel all the little muscles in the feet. Again, try not to roll into the outside of the feet. Really connect into the balls of the feet, the big toe, the pinky toe. And if you feel confident enough and you'd like to try removing your hand from the wall or chair, give it a go. And let's do 2 more. Walking forward and trying to maintain a straight line if you can. Now, you're at the end of your mat or you've done a few steps forward. We're now going to try reverse this movement. So you might need to practice this quite a lot. I'd suggest doing it every day. The more you build up that muscle memory, the better for your body. So we're going to take our leg behind the other one. So you want to now go toes onto the back of the heel. So obviously this is challenging our proprioception a little bit. So our spatial awareness, it's a little bit more challenging. Think as you place your foot, you want to go toe to heel. Toe to heel. Try not to lean forward. Trust that you can actually feel the sensation of your feet connecting with that floor. The more you connect and ground yourself through your feet, everything else can restack as you shift your weight onto that foot. And just slowly walking back. Really use your inner thighs. This is where your center line is connected. A very important concept in Pilates. Always connect and move from center. And then once you've done a few steps, maybe slightly wobbly steps, that's fine. It will improve with time. You can also do this whole sequence, forward and back tightrope walking, with your eyes closed. Scary it seems, but that's where you want to aim towards. If you can do it without your eyesight, we're in a really good place for good proprioception and less likely to have bad balance issues. Now, you're going to stand with your feet hip distance apart. Again, for all this balance work, if you do need a little bit of support, please use it. We're going to start with just a simple leg pickup. So from this position, you want to do all the little checks. Is your pelvis over your ankles? Are your knees soft? Are all of your foot connected onto that mat? Abs engaged and standing nice and tall through the crown of the head. Now, you're going to squeeze your left bum cheek and you're going to pull your belly button into your spine as if someone's poking you in the tummy and you're trying to move away from the finger. And as you do that, you're going to float your right leg up to what we call tabletop. So a 90-degree angle. And just try hold that. You want to feel the glutes working on that standing leg. You want to feel the abs working and lower back down. Other side. You're going to engage the right glutes, engage the abs, and then float that left leg up. Is your pelvis level? Are you twisted? Check your pelvic alignment. It's really important to maintain stability through the pelvis. We walk up and down stairs a fair bit, so you want to be doing it in the correct way. That's not going to put strain on the skeleton. And let's do a couple more each side. Breathe out on the effort up. How wobbly are we on one leg? Can we let go of the wall? And other side. And hovering up. and lower back down. Other side, lifting up. You're going to lift the leg up and back down and lifting up. Now, hold that leg there. If you feel stable enough, you can attempt this next variation. Otherwise, stick to single leg pickup. You're going to pick the leg up and you're going to twist your torso round to your lifted leg. So this is definitely going to challenge your balance. As we progress, I want you to be able to do this movement perfectly and lower back down. Float the other leg up. Find your glute connection. As you rotate round to that lifted leg, engage a little bit through the inner thigh, your center line on that standing leg. And then come back and release back down. Let's do once more each side. And lift. As you twist round, draw the abs in as if you're rotating around a pole connected to your spine. Come back to center and lower back down. Other side, lifting up, twisting round, back to center and release back down. Right. Now the next balance exercise, it's going to take you off a little bit to the side. Now this is going to help strengthen up the side of the body. The side of the body really helps to give you a bit more stability in a lot of other postures. Again, please use the wall for support if you need it. You're going to start with your legs fairly wide apart. One hand resting against the wall if you need it. Obviously, we're aiming to do this without wall support. And then all you're going to do is just lean over to one side, lifting the other leg off the floor. So we're kind of in a side star position. And back to center. And then over to the other side. Bend a little bit on the standing leg as you lift that leg up. Abs engaged. Check that your shoulders in a side alignment with that hip or at a diagonal angle. And back to center. You're going to move side to side, just gently shifting your weight over, moving from one end of the body to the other end. And then if you can, you're going to go for a hold. Breathing into it. Obviously, if you're holding onto a wall, you might just do one side at a time. But we want to get to the point where we can shift over. And other side, go for a bit of a hold. And release back. So from standing, you're going to step one leg forward. So the back leg is straight, the front leg is bent. Place your hands onto your bent leg and then bend your back leg so you're dropping the knee to the floor. Then you're going to come onto all fours. So you're going to bring the other leg in line with the back leg, onto the hands, sit down onto your side and ease yourself onto the floor. So this is a safe way to do the movement from standing to lying down. And we're going to do a little posture check again. If you feel you need a cushion underneath your head, especially if the head has been sitting quite far forward of the spine because of the kyphosis, then please feel free to always have a little bit of a cushion head support for you. Now, as you're lying on your back, you want to feel that we've got what we call a neutral pelvis. So this is ideally the optimum position for our pelvis to be in, that's anatomically correct and feels best for our spine. Now with the osteoporosis, obviously the spine can do all sorts of things like curve quite deeply forward. It can rotate and twist as it develops. So I'm not expecting a completely perfectly aligned spine, but we want to be as close to neutral as possible. As you're lying on your back, you should feel obviously there's a nice gap underneath your neck. There should be a natural gap underneath your lower back, but it's not a very huge gap that the whole rib cage is lifting off the floor as well. You want to really try settle that rib cage nicely into that mat. It's quite common to have a bit of lower back tension with osteoporosis in the muscles. So this will just start to ease that lower back a little bit. So from this position, I want you to tilt your pelvis so you're lifting your tailbone off the floor, imprinting the lower back into the mat. And then send the tailbone back down. And again, belly button sinks down to the spine as you tilt the pelvis and imprint that back. And then release. And as you're tilting that pelvis and you're moving back and forward, you're working on your abdominal muscles. You know, there's a lot of concern about moving the spine with osteoporosis, but if it's done safely and with the right muscles, it's actually really beneficial, because what happens is you can become very immobile from lack of movement, and that can cause even more pain, and that's what we want to try avoid. So we want to move in the best possible way. And so we're going to tilt the pelvis and then release it so that it's that mid placement between the two extreme ranges of the tilt. That's what we call neutral pelvis. Now, we're going to go into an exercise called the bridge. We want to try keep as much mobility through our spine as we can, but we have to do it in a safe way. This is a fantastic exercise to help build up that mobility in the spine without loading and straining the spine. So see how you manage with your cushion. If you start to feel it going a little bit into the neck, I want you to remove that cushion. Ideally, there's no cushion, but it depends on how severe the curvature of the spine is. So we're going to have legs hip distance apart, feet on the floor and legs bent. You want your knees in line with your ankles and in line with your hips. Imagine you've got a little cushion between your legs. Now, you're going to squeeze that imaginary cushion, tilt your pelvis, lift the tailbone. So we're imprinting that back again. And we're slowly going to peel the spine up, one vertebra at a time, lifting off the mat as high as you feel comfortable enough in that neck to go. At the top, take a deep breath in. And as you breathe out, you're going to curve the spine down. So the vertebrae are working with gravity. They're just being placed one at a time down on the mat and then finishing in the tailbone. And again, pelvic tilt. We're lifting the pelvis up, switching on those glutes. Very important for supporting the spine. Coming all the way up onto the shoulders if you can get that much. If it starts to go in the back or the neck, don't come up as high. And then breathing out. Like a string of pearls, you're placing each vertebra down one at a time through that center line down to the tailbone. Let's do one more, and pelvic tilt. Coming all the way back up. At the top, we're going to add a bit of arm movement. So we're going to float the arms up to the ceiling and then reach the arms as far back as those shoulders will allow. Now there's probably a little bit of restriction in the shoulders. That's fine. If you can get it right down on the floor, fab, but don't worry if you can't. And then leave the arms where they are, and you're going to curve your spine down, one bone at a time, using the abs to place each vertebra back down all the way to the tailbone, then bring the arms down to your sides. And again, pelvic tilt, coming all the way back up. Big breath in, arms reach back. Leave the arms there and then curve the spine down. lengthening, elongating your back muscles, elongating that spine. And release the arms back down. Now we're going to add on to that. So we're going to tilt the pelvis. We're going to lift up. We're going to have the hands now up to the ceiling. And we're going to do some more heel raises. It's really important to strengthen up the feet and the calf muscles. Get some blood flow to them. We're going to float up the heels. Walk the feet a little bit closer to the sitting bones. Lift the pelvis a bit higher. So you're really getting into those glutes. Again, if it's too much with the cushion under your head, please remove it. And you're going to lower the heels and lift the heels. Make sure your knees aren't drifting outwards or too far inwards. They're staying in that tracking hip, knee, ankle alignment. As you lift the heels, don't roll only onto some of the toes. Get all toes connected, all of the foot connected, and then ripple back down, one bone at a time, and hug your knees into the chest. Really good stretch for that back. Hands down by your side. We're going to take a deep breath in to prepare. We're going to tilt the pelvis, come back up into your bridge position. You want to keep the alignment of the pelvis, so it's really important to strengthen up the gluteal muscles, so your bottom cheeks, because they help to maintain a stable pelvis, and a stable pelvis is a really good foundation for the spine to sit on. So you're going to now pick one leg up to tabletop, knee above the hip. Check what's happened in the hips. Pop your hands on your hips. You want to maintain a level pelvis. And lower back down. Other side. Belly button sinks down to the spine to float the leg up. Can you keep that pelvis level? If it's going a bit into your lower back, just lower the pelvis halfway up instead. And again, we're floating that leg up and lowering back down. So we're testing that stability in the pelvis. You might find you more stable on one leg. That's perfectly normal. So you could always add a few extra repetitions to the weaker side. Okay, and then once you've done a few each side, if you need to do a few extra on the weaker side, please feel free to do so. Otherwise, we're going to ripple back down to the mat, one bone at a time. Okay, now we're going to get a little bit of sideways movement now for the spine. Feet are glued together, knees together, arms out to the side in a T-arm position. We're going to do some hip rolls. Now, you want to mobilize your spine in rotation. So think of the sequential movement of each little vertebra. You're going to roll your knees slowly over to one side. Keep the knees level with each other. And then come all the way back to center. So as you roll over, top foot rests on top of the bottom foot. Knees, try keep them level with each other. And then come back to center. So first the knees go over, then a bit of the pelvis comes up, then a bit of the ribs come up. Don't let the shoulder lift off the mat. And then to come back, the ribs go down first, then the lower back, pelvis, knees follow to center. So it should feel quite nice on the body. Breathing in, you're going to go over to one side. And breathing out, you're going to come back to center. And again, we're rolling over and coming back. If that was a challenge enough, you're going to stick to this version until we feel a little bit stronger. Otherwise, we're going to roll the knees over to one side, this time on the out breath. Then we're going to extend the top leg. So we're adding a little bit more challenge. A little bit more challenge for those abdominals and waistline. Then bring the whole shape back to center. Don't worry if you can't fully extend the leg. Depends how tight those muscles are. And over to the other side. We're going to roll over to one side, extend the top leg, abs engaged. So you want the feeling of sinking your belly button to the spine. Pull the weight of the legs back to center and release. Let's just do one more each side. You're going to roll over, extend the leg, breathe out, pull back to center. So this is really going to work those abdominals. Very important for supporting the spine and the rest of the body. And last one. Bring it back and release. We're going to actually challenge our core stability a little bit now. So you're going to glue your legs together, hands up to the ceiling. Anchor the shoulders down to the mat. So let's start with a little arm reach up to the ceiling, lifting the shoulders off the floor, and then draw them back down, dropping those arms. So you're nicely anchored into the shoulder girdle. Now, keeping the hands in that parallel alignment, you're going to do a knee roll over to one side. So the challenge is to keep the shoulders and the arms completely fixed and come back to center. Over to the other side. You're going to roll over and then come back to center. So we're thinking about the posture, our alignment, our sequential movement and mobilization of our spine, and coming all the way back. Let's do a couple more. Breathing in and breathing out. And of course you can do the single leg extension version like we did in the previous exercise. If you feel you can progress to a more challenging exercise, I'll leave it up to you. And come back to center. You should never feel strain in your back when doing this exercise. If you are, make your range smaller and think about working more from your abdominals. Now, we're going to come into a side lying position, facing me, bottom hand underneath the head. As you look down, you want to look at your alignment. You should be able to see your ankles. If not, just adjust your legs a little bit further forward, because you don't want to be lifting from the back of the body. You want to be lifting from the front and the waistline. You want to think about that shoulder, rib cage, and pelvic alignment, and try bring your eyeline view up. Top hand on the floor for support. Top leg floats up to hip height, switching on the top line of the body. Then belly button draws into the spine. Breathe out. You're going to squeeze the bottom leg up to the top leg, connecting your center line, and lower the bottom leg. Breathe out on the effort up. Breathe in on the release down. If you find you need a little extra cushioning under the hip, feel free to get a folded up towel or a cushion. It will challenge your stability a little bit more, but that's not a bad thing. And let's breathe out on the effort. Breathe in on the release. Let's do 4 more. And 1, 2. If you feel that's quite easy and you'd like to try no hand support, give that a go. And last one, release back down. If you found that was a challenge enough, then stick to this version. If you find it is a little bit too much on the hip, stick to this version as well. Otherwise, we're going to do a double leg lift. So abs engage, big breath in to prepare. Breathing out, we're going to lift both legs off that mat and lower back down. And lift and lower. So it requires a full body connection. Relax your shoulders, breathe out on the effort up. Breathe in on the release back down. And let's just do 2 more. 1. And lower. And last one. And release back down. Let's come back up into standing now. So we're going to do the reverse of that transition movement. So we're going to come into a sitting position. And then from that position, you're going to lean into a 4-point kneeling position. So coming onto all fours, knees underneath the pelvis, hands underneath the shoulders. You're going to come up into a high kneeling position, placing one hand onto the front knee, so lifting that leg up, and then you're going to lean onto that front knee to push yourself up. Sometimes you might need, until you build up that strength, a wall support as well, or a chair nearby. And then once you've lifted up, come up into standing. So let's finish with a posture check. You're going to have your feet together, connecting your center line. Push the pubic bone an inch forward. Feel the glutes connect, the abs connect. Ribs are over the pelvis, shoulders are over the ribs. And then open up that collarbone. So smile your collarbone to the front. Head as far in line with the spine as you can manage. Open the toes, wrapping the glutes into the sides, and then open the heels. So your legs are parallel. All toes connected, ball of the foot connected. Soften the knees a little bit. Take a deep breath in. And then breathing out, just relax into that posture. Try not to feel too much like a robot as you go about the rest of your day in this perfect posture.